The Central Bank of Nigeria has fired at least 2 circulars on foreign exchange market to all commercial banks over the past 48 hours as the Naira hits its lowest levels ever in the country's 63-year history. The latest directive on reporting requirements and prudential guidelines on net open position for banks was released today by the financial regulator. Joining me to put all of this into some context is Kelvin, an economist, as well as a director at Obsidian, China, Nigeria. Thanks for coming in tonight to our Lagos studios. Well, it's good to have you. There's a whole lot of fire on the mountain, as the saying goes locally. What do you make of the latest FX reporting and prudential guidelines?
Well, I think, first of all, Cardozo realizes that just paying out the outstanding forwards on capital, commercial letters of credit, on capital and dividend remittances. You could see IATA released a statement to acknowledge that so far $64 million has been paid, but they are still being owed $700 million. Nigeria is still on the top 3 list of the highest blocked funds globally for international airlines. And then you have Form A, and I think dividend remittances for investors from Nigeria, multinational companies. It's not enough. And the CBN realizes that it actually has to work on some structural changes within the banks. And the first circular that was released on Monday, the 29th of January 2024, is directly correlated with the circular that was released today, 31st of January 2024. The first one that was released on Monday was on what they call all-in rates and second check. All-in rate talks about the rate at which the official market quotes for banks to their clients. And the fact that currently, as we speak, there is what they call mark-to-market trading, where the treasury of banks actually have a second check rate that is close to the black market rate. So the central bank basically is saying to the banks that the practice of second checks is no longer allowed, and banks have to cap their positions at the all-in rate. And it's directly related because when you see the circular that was released today, it says that the banks have until February 1 to align with prudential guidelines, which is tomorrow morning, on ensuring 24 hours, on ensuring that their net open positions on longs are completely liquidated. So the banks are no longer allowed to hold net open positions or NOP on long. Long trade. Long in the market is buy, hold on the USD, short is sell. Short on them, sell on the USD. The banks are no longer allowed to open long positions for the speculative reasons. The banks are also expected to hold sufficient liquidity and also make arrangements with banks for contingency on net foreign assets and liabilities.
Look at all these rules. The central bank, Cardozo, is firing on all cylinders, in the manner of speaking, all in a bid to rein in the decline in Naira position. But what is the central bank actually looking to achieve, I'm sure? How long do you think this will go in addressing the liquidity gap that we have, the supply side that we have in the market right now?
As much as I don't believe it's going to make a significant dent, because there is still the problem of liquidity and lack of supply. And there's the fact that we have a negative net reserve when it comes to our foreign reserves for balance of payment settlement. And the $3.4 billion that was secured in the forward sale agreement is just a drop in the ocean of all the liabilities that the CBN holds on its balance sheet, right? I think this is a step in the right direction because it's basically saying that you're going to plug the practice of speculation by deposit money banks who happen to be primary dealers in the foreign exchange markets until when the Senate has summoned the CBN governor next week, Tuesday, to come and testify to them on what he thinks the solution to the current slide in the Naira is. But until when the Foreign Exchange Act is amended by the National Assembly, the banks remain the primary dealers. And I think it's important that he's placing a cap on
the position of the banks. Technically, the central bank believes that the banks are playing some games. Without necessarily saying so in black and white.
Yes, and I agree with the central bank's position. It's completely the step in the right direction. And it's very important for us to note that the circular that was released on Monday is very, very much correlated with the circular, and it was well coordinated that was released today.
Do you think we're close to achieving a convergence of both the official and the parallel market, and what indications are there of a likely further depreciation or devaluation of the naira? We were down 30% from around June last year when we opened the Pandora box, in the manner of speaking. When we tried to do the convergence, they were seeing about another 30% so far this year.
I don't think we're going to achieve a convergence soon. I think if you notice very well last year when the naira appreciated sharply overnight, the NAFEM rate dropped significantly, yes. Right? I see that in the market today, right? There is the problem of the Central Bank of Nigeria not being able to provide liquidity to close the black market premium, right? And you can't close the black market premium until you clear the forwards, until you raise your inflows, until you're able to raise your balance of payments, your foreign reserves. Yes. You can't close the black market premium. So I don't think that
is that disincentivizing the black market or the parallel market? I'm trying to find out.
If the government attempts to allow the NAFEM rate to float, to close the gap between the official and parallel market, what you're going to see is that, because last year, when the president announced at the inauguration that they were going to float the naira, what happened was the CBN immediately took revaluation losses on FX swaps and FX forwards, immediately. Yes. And in my estimate, the revaluation losses that they took overnight came to about 4 trillion naira, which they're still trying to grapple with.
Yes, in their relationship with the banks.
In their relationship with the banks. Now, pay attention to the fact that the subnationals also have external debt.
Yeah, Lagos State
has about $3.5 or $3 billion in external debt.
Yes.
If they close that gap, even if it's going to raise the amount of naira that they get into the consolidated revenue fund when the market monies are converted at the secondary market system, auction SMIS, yeah?
Yes.
You're going to have serious losses on how much Nigeria's external debt position is to foreign investors in terms of liabilities. You're also going to have serious losses to the subnationals for what they owe.
What would the banks be losing to these new guidelines? Because they made jumbo gains on FX devaluation last year.
The banks are going to take a serious hit in 2024 on their treasury, mark-to-market trading specifically, and what they get from speculating on the difference between the all-in rate and the second check.
Well, this is the warning that the central bank gave some time ago, that be careful, you speculators. What Cardoso gave late last year?
It is a warning, and it is...
It is materializing.
It is materializing, but then again, my concern for 2024, and so what I want us to watch out for in 2024, is on the issue of the revaluation gains and the balance sheet of the banks, and the fact that the central bank might cap the recapitalization of banks in foreign exchange, in USD and not in Naira.
Look.
And how the banks are going to have to, for international banking, to national banking, to regional banking license, for their capital adequacy ratio.
You think the banks can survive all of that in a single year for this year? Do you think they can?
It's going to be difficult. We might see some M&A activity. We might also see some rights issues. Consolidation of the banking sector. In my opinion, I remember many years ago, Lamido mentioned that we don't need more than 10 banks in Nigeria. I'm not indicating that the number of banks should be reduced. I'm just saying that if, for example, they increase IBL capital adequacy ratio to $1 billion, it's going to be difficult for the banks to be able to reach that level without the usual practice of moving monies around balance sheet of banks.
In manner of speaking, you think the honeymoon is over for the banks for this year? Last year was good. This year would not likely be that much of revaluation gains.
I think Cardoso has a difficult job, but so far he's doing the right things. But again, there are no silver bullets, and it's not going to be overnight.
It's not going to be overnight. So we're expecting to see more after today's guidelines and on reporting and all that. You expect to see more?
I expect to see more.
Yeah, February 26th is just ahead, still ahead.
Well, before February 26th, of course, they have the issue of the fact that the president needs to fill up quorum for the board.
Oh yeah, for the
central
committee,
bank,
for the
else
MPC
it will
committee.
be illegal for them to hold the MPC without a quorum.
Without a quorum.
Because you have 12 members. We currently have 5 members.
Yes.
The president has the opportunity to appoint 3 members.
Yes.
Yes. The CBN governor has 2. You know, the permanent secretary of Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General of Federation are supposed to be on the board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. If they don't form quorum by the 26th of February, it's going to be constitutionally illegal for them to hold the MPC meeting. I
don't think we should let that happen. We just need to hear from Cardoso once and for all, and then we cannot put a whole lot of things.
Of course, you know, there is the issue of you know, raising MPR and risking non-performing loan ratio of the banks, as against the other side of, if you don't raise MPR, you're going to see the capital flight from Naira assets to USD assets continue.
Interesting. We've got about a couple of more weeks. You're going to be back here before then, by the way. Some folks are saying 100, 300, 600 basis points that on February 27th. I don't know what to think. I'm holding my heart until then. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming at very short notice.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time on the show as always. That's Kelvin Emmanuel, who is an economist and also the board member of obviously the Achana. Thank you so much.